Yo, what's going on guys? My name is LionHeartZ and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to start a series of videos where I'm going to be looking at teams that interest me specifically and talk about what may be next for them as we head into this player break period before the start of the new season in 2025. Whether that's potential roster moves, shuffling around the roles, who they should be trying to pursue in free agency, those kinds of issues. And there's no better place to start than the team that everyone expected to at least make a deep run into the Shanghai Major, for many the odds-on favorites to win it all, the team of the year, and the one poised to almost capture the first era in CS2, and that is of course NAVI. After a miraculous second season saw them go on a streak including 6 straight grand finals, NAVI are exiting 2024 with an uncomfortable list of questions and one gigantic shadow looming over the entire organization. If you've been around my content for a minute, you might remember a video I published during last player break called NAVI's Simple Problem. And with that problem not having a concrete solution, there are so many questions this roster has to ask itself over the break period, and today we're going to take a look at what might happen. With the landscape of competitive CS2 constantly evolving, a whole new circuit structure in the new year, NAVI may be the best team right now, but there are many challengers coming for that crown. Let's not waste any more time and go ahead and get right into it, but first I'd like to thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video is sponsored by SkinClub. They are one of the most popular case opening sites in Counter-Strike with over 100 custom cases backed by its provably fair system, meaning that as long as you are not me, you have a fair shot at unboxing something awesome.
Nice.
But it's not just regular unboxings. You can compete in case opening battles with other users, the boys in between that next Us 2 match, or privately with bots where you can either team up 2v2 to split the winnings, or try your luck to win the entire pot if you hit the best item. Or, if risk scares you, and it does for me, you can toggle sharing mode to split the winnings evenly amongst the group. But that's not all. SkinClub runs monthly events for you to win unique prizes, free daily cases for a little extra cheddar on top, and if you don't like the skins you hit, you can always try a little cheeky upgrade to find something you do like. If you want to play on SkinClub, you can click the top link in the description for a 7% deposit bonus and top off your account with credit card, crypto, or even deposit skins directly from your inventory. Lastly, please don't gamble if you are under 18, live in a country or jurisdiction that restricts gambling, and most importantly, don't gamble to make money. Play for fun with money you are okay to lose. Gambling addiction is very real, and if you or a loved one are having problems in the US or Canada, you can reach out to this hotline, 1-800-GAMBLER, toll-free to get help. Addiction is an illness, and I want you to be healthy and safe. Thank you to SkinClub for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get back to it. Alright, cool. With that done, the first place I want to start is clarifying that, yeah, obviously NAVI are the team of the year for Counter-Strike, and it's really not that close. I'm still working myself on my own set of top 10 lists, keep an eye on the channel for those in the near future, but to make this succinct, NAVI are clearly the best team. And while there are teams who have a very good shot in any other year winning that crown, with Spirit's meteoric run at the Major being an excellent cap-off to their season, Vitality's insane consistency in deep runs in pretty much every tournament they competed in, G2 being nuclear high highs and pants-shittingly low lows, NAVI clearly have the best case for the best team. They've won more tournaments than anybody else, they had the major win in the first half of the year at Copenhagen, and their consistency as the #1 team to beat in the second season is pretty much undeniable. The problem is, the end of the season, as we already discussed, was rather disappointing, with a huge blow-up at the Blast World Finals, and a very disappointing finish here at the Major in the playoffs. There's no way around it. For a team of NAVI's caliber to lose to Heroic in the quarterfinals was more or less unforgivable, especially in the fashion that it happened. Heroic looked decisively better than NAVI at pretty much every point. NAVI only looked dominant on a nuke map that Heroic themselves don't play that often, but we got onto maps that were closer in each other's map pools. Mirage, which NAVI were the kings of earlier in the season, got absolutely eviscerated, and on Ancient, Kicksan pretty thoroughly outcalled Alexi B, and all of the individuals on Heroic were just better than whatever kind of fragging that NAVI could put up. And the real issue is that these latter 2 tournaments of the year showed a worrying trend for NAVI that could lead into future seasons, and that's that their core is very, very good, undeniably talented from top to bottom, but what NAVI lacks right now is a definitive top 5 player. And in my opinion, if you want to be a true title contender, a team that operates in the top 4, 3, 2, or even 1 spots in the world is getting harder and harder to have that kind of roster without superstar output. The reason that NAVI dominated so much throughout this year was their unrivaled consistency, their strategic depth, and the fact that they had 4 players who were all at or around a star level output, so they were comfortably in like the top 10 or top 15, but they didn't have that impactful m0NESY, Nico, Donk, ZywOo type piece. And for a while it didn't matter because Navi was so deep that they didn't need that extra firepower. But in the Blast World Finals and the Shanghai Major, you saw that when pieces slowed down, they didn't have that absolute carry potential that they needed to help in those types of games. The 2 pieces that stand out the most of this are unfortunately JL and Wonderful. JL, who was the catalyst to get this team over the hump and win the major in Copenhagen, is just a very inconsistent player. It's true, he's one of the better big game players in the world, someone who can really rise to the moment, but he has a habit of going missing earlier in tournaments, and once he goes missing, he's not the type of player to be able to recover either in that game or in that tournament. The reality is that while most players on Navi were averaged in the high 1.1 ratings throughout most of this year, both JL and Wonderful saw their stats take a noticeable slip back towards the median, with JL regressing in a huge way while Wonderful regressed only slightly, resulting in a gap that Bit and Emma simply weren't capable of filling. And despite there being a greater gap and drop between the two, I think Wonderful is probably the piece that's easier to replace and the most likely to do so if Navi make that kind of change, because not having an opper that can compete with the other top dogs in the game can really hold any team back. Think of a team in a similar situation like Complexity. You have that superstar carry potential in Bubblesj, but halzerk, while a great opper in his own right, can't compete with those above him in the pecking order. He's certainly not beating the m0NESY, Shiro, and ZywOos. He's also not necessarily going to beat the Torjis, the Devices when he's on, Brokey if he's hitting as well. Even someone like 910 from the Mongols has had a huge tick up over the last few months. The reality is that while Wonderful is very good, he is probably the most inconsistent opper in the top 10, and the stats reflect this. This is a huge stats database maintained by Nero over on Twitter. It's a great resource if you really want to nerd out over CS statistics, and here are his predictors for the HLTV award nominees currently ongoing. And as you can see, statistically over 166 maps played this year, Wonderful doesn't have a significantly better overall rating than players like Torji, Brokey, 910, and not a significant lead over other operas like Device, halzerk, and Woxic. However, he is thoroughly gapped by Shiro, m0NESY, and especially ZywOo, though do keep in mind that ZywOo actually rifles more than he ops, and these are op-only statistics, so the numbers are a bit inflated due to smaller sample size. Anyway, point being is that Wonderful is not significantly better than the competition below him, and especially when you look closer, and that's been Wonderful's biggest flaw, is that he's pretty much a playoff dropper. When he plays top 5 or better teams, when he plays in elimination games, big event games, or in an arena, he regresses in a large way. The gap between a 1.1 player and a 1.0 plus player is actually pretty significant. To put it in perspective, Shiro has a very similar issue where he tends to drop off in bigger games, but Shiro regresses to roughly the output of Wonderful's averages, whereas Wonderful's regression lands him somewhere near Brokey or sometimes lower, and we all know how inconsistent Brokey has been, especially in the latter half of this year. So Wonderful seems like the easiest piece to try and replace, and there's actually a lot of viable options out there. We know that m0NESY might be considering a move. Of course, there was recent reporting saying he didn't want to go to Falcons, but that doesn't mean he's not open to other moves. And then obviously the biggest thing that is going to loom over this team, we already talked about in the intro, is Simple. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and entertain the idea that Simple is somehow washed. I fully believe with a full season of practice, a full off-season to recover, a stable team environment, there is no reason to suspect that Simple is somehow washed up yet. He's not even that old, and let's not forget, he's the fucking GOAT. So, with someone like Simple on the bench, Navi just disappointed at his last 2 tournaments to end the year. Simple wants to be back in the game, he wants to be an opper, and on the other side you have Wonderful, a young opper who had a great first season, but we all know that his peak will never be anywhere close to the peak of Simple. That's got to put an astronomical amount of pressure on Wonderful as well as Navi as a team, because at what point do you parachute out and give Simple another chance? And the situation gets even more difficult for NAVI because we don't necessarily know if Simple will be the right fit for this team. Alexi B is a micromanager. He wants to be able to control every aspect of the team, and that's given great results with a young, unproven core of players that he's able to mold into his exact system. We've seen those results. But Simple is going to play Simple's game. Simple will adapt to whatever he thinks he wants to do, and if Simple and Alexi B clash and they butt heads, the system could potentially fall apart. I'm not saying that it's impossible for Simple to assimilate and accept Alexi B as his leader. Maybe after seeing the success over the course of this year and not having a spot on any roster, being an expensive buyout, maybe he can't necessarily go to a team he wants to go to, he's willing to give Alexi B a true shot. Especially with possibly a vote of confidence from Blade, Simple could easily assimilate. The point is, it's not guaranteed, and Simple comes with another set of risks. As soon as Simple enters back into this team, the focus on the other players gets magnified. The moment JL, Bit, or Emma doesn't perform the same way they have throughout this year, it's going to be criticized as letting Simple down. We know that this tax comes with playing with the best player of all time. You need to perform in a way that satisfies Simple and his fans, or you are going to be widely criticized. So I in no way think this is an easy problem for NAVI to solve. They could easily choose to maintain the roster as is, play out the early events in next year, see where they're at, then make a decision then. They can choose to make a roster move now, seek out another piece to replace someone on the roster, while trying to field buyouts for Simple to move him to a project that would be able to afford him. Or ultimately someone like Wonderful could be heading to the bench to give room for the GOAT to come back into the fold. And in that case, NAVI could either morph into one of the most dangerous teams in the world with Alexi B's excellent calling, Bit's unrivaled anchoring, Emma's ability to be an electronic-esque level rifler next to Simple, the GOAT makes his return to glory, and JL, with that slightly reduced role, that slightly reduced need to carry, becomes one of the most elite X-Factor players in the world, where he will wildly take over a map and dominate out of nowhere. Or it could be a disaster, and much in the way that LeBron, while being the clear best basketball player of all time, fight me, can oftentimes be a polarizing influence in organizations he is traded to, Simple could actually make this team worse or drag it down. We'll just have to wait and see, but it's very clear to me that the future for NAVI is nothing if not murky. They were the best team this year, but it's looking more and more like an open field in 2025 for any number of teams to capture the spot as the best team in Counter-Strike. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button, leave a like, leave a comment down below. It helps out immensely in the YouTube algorithm. Thank you to SkinClub for sponsoring this video. Link in the description, get 7% off your first deposit, all that good stuff. I'll be live tonight if you're catching this video when it's first uploaded, playing Counter-Strike over on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ CS2. Come drop me a follow and hang out. Other than that, keep it real. Happy holidays. I'll see you guys soon in another video. Peace.